Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now today we're going to be having a look at and talking about a button plate by Conspit. This is the Conspit H.AO. And the point of these button plates is that you can attach your own steering wheels to them or choose from a selection that are provided from the manufacturer. But before we dive in any further, the necessary disclaimer. Conspit sent me this button plate to test and have a look at, although they don't see this video before you do and they've got no input at all in relation to what I say. And also, there's no affiliate links, there's no kickbacks, I'm just giving you my opinion. So, let's have a look at it first of all. So this is the Conspit H.AO. So this is the button plate itself. So you can see a selection of buttons and rotaries, and on the back we have a selection of paddle shifters and a dual clutch on the bottom. So how many buttons have we got? So on the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buttons. We've got 2 toggle switches on there. That gives us 12, 14. We've got 2 funky switches on there. So essentially you can push those in and you've got the 7-way hat and a rotary. So those are rotaries. We've got rotaries on the top. We've got rotaries down here and we've got these purple rotaries there. On the back, we've got your usual paddle shifters. And on the top, we've got these push-pull switches on the top. Normally, you've got these DRS paddles on the top, but these ones are push and pull. So you've got 2 functions there, one on either side. And obviously, we've got the dual clutch on the bottom. And on the front, we've got a display and some RPM shift lights across the top. And the whole point of these is that you can just attach whichever steering wheel you want. So if you want that one, great. If you wanted that style, great. If you wanted that style, great. And if you've got your own rim, there you go. Stick that on. Great. But let's talk a little bit more about the button plate and what I like and what I don't like. Now, when I look at products, there are usually 4 things that I'm interested in. Firstly, how does it look? Because if it doesn't look right, I'm not going to buy it in the first place. Secondly, what's the build quality like? Thirdly, how does it perform? And finally, is it value for money? So firstly, let's talk about looks. Now, as far as button plates goes, button boxes, I think it's absolutely banging. I think it's great. Proper carbon fiber. On the back, you can see, well, on the front as well. Proper carbon fibre. It's got an aluminium structure inside, but the actual casing is real carbon fibre. Now, you might think, well, what's the point of having carbon fibre on a sim rig? It doesn't move. Well, the steering wheel is probably one of the only places where carbon fibre really matters. The lighter this is, the more detailed your force feedback will feel. But this is very light. But when you attach a wheel rim on it and a quick release on it, it's not that light. I think with the Acertech quick release, the wheel rim, I think it was about 2.4 kilos. So it's not light, but it's much lighter than it would be if it wasn't carbon fiber. So it's got the one USB connector on the back, which feeds through this, which you also get with the wheel. And then you attach your quick release to that. And it goes through there. And there's a small indentation on there. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. Come on, focus. Focus, focus, focus. And there we go. So you might be able to see that there. That's where the cable runs through. And your quick release would attach to that. But I digress there. We're talking about looks. I think it looks really good. I do think it looks really good in the carbon fiber. The front looks really nice. Apart from these toggle switches. When you've got the steering wheel on there, there's very small nuts on here. Call them nuts. So you can see it there. I don't like how they look. I'm not a fan of that. And I'm not a fan of the screen. But structurally, I think this looks absolutely brilliant. The placement of the buttons, I think is really nice. It's really good. And the back, I think the back is a work of art. I really do think it's beautiful. If we just compare it to a button plate from Turn Racing, essentially does the same thing. So this is the turn racing one. This is the Conspit one. And we'll just turn them around so you can see the backside. So yeah, there's a big difference in how they look. And obviously this one's much more expensive, like nearly double the price. So you would expect it to look better. And it does. I think this looks really, really nice. So looks wise, really good. Secondly, on to build quality. Now, for the most part, I think it's brilliant. I've got no issues with the button plate and the buttons and all that kind of stuff. What I do have an issue with, and I've spoken to Conspit about this, is on the back here, where this attaches. That attaches there with 3 bolts on the back, 3 Allen bolts on the back, which attaches this, and then you then attach your quick release to that. These 3 holes here are obviously pre-tapped from the factory. 2 of them are fine. One of them, I couldn't get a bolt in. So when I was testing this, it was only held on with 2 bolts. I couldn't get the 3rd one in. Now, I spoke to Conspit, and they say it must be a manufacturing issue with this one button plate. They haven't had any other reports of that happening. And I know how to thread an Allen bolt into a thread. It's not rocket science. So it's not like I've tried to force something and it won't go. I haven't forced it in. I don't want to force it in. It just won't, the thread won't grip. I maybe could get something and tap it out. My, lad's an engineer. I could maybe get him to tap that out. He could probably do that for us. But that's the only issue. But I have fed that back into Conspit. And they say they haven't had any other reports of that. So it's probably just a defect with this one unit. So on to build quality for the rest of the unit. Absolutely perfect. I can't fault it. All of the buttons feel really nice. You might not be able to hear them. Can you hear them? Really nice. Real tactile feel to the buttons. The rotary encoders are really nice and stiff. These ones, not so much, the funky switches, but the actual thumb encoders, and these ones on the front especially, super nice, really nice. You're not going to turn these by accident. These ones are the loosest. Then you've got these ones up here and down there. They're a little bit more firm, a little bit harder to turn. And then you've got the purple ones on there, which are much, much firmer. But really nice. I'm not a fan of toggle switches on any wheel rim. I just don't like them at all. But they're fine. I just don't like the look of them. And on the back, the paddle shifters and the dual clutch and this DRS paddle. I don't think they call it a DRS paddle, but that's a push-pull. That's really nice. Same goes to the wheel rims. The actual quality of the wheel rims, of the leather and the stitching, really nice. Really, really nice. Now, you might be wondering how you put these on here. Well, there's a small grub screw on these 2 rotaries there, so you wouldn't do that. These rotaries pull off. You wouldn't do these little nuts from the top there, and you can then place the wheel rim on top. Now, if you want to use your own wheel rim, like this one, so that would sit on there. You can see these 2 encoders there, they would be in the way. But what you can do, these actually come off there. You can pull them out. So I can take that one out, and I can take that one out. And then now, this wheel rim sits flush on there. So if you use a third party or aftermarket wheel rim, not a Conspit one, then you need to remove these rotary encoders on there. Dead easy to do, like simple. But by removing those, you're obviously losing a major function of the steering wheel, which are the 2 7-way hats. I would much rather have just lost a couple of regular rotary encoders. So I don't know if there's potential to move these up there and back and forth, but by removing those, you remove the 7-way funky switches, which is really useful. Now, onto performance. Performed really well. It's a steering wheel with buttons on, so it does what it does. My only gripe with it is the display. I mean, it's 2024. If a wheel's got a display, in my opinion, it should be better than this one. And the RPM lights I didn't think they were great either. I would much rather ditch the display and have some nice LEDs there, some RPM shift lights. I'm not a fan of the dashboard on this wheel. Like I mentioned, it's 2024. Either have a really fancy dashboard or don't have one at all. I didn't think it served much purpose, and I didn't really look at it at all. And the shift lights, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of those. I would have much preferred it to have nothing on there, nothing. But apart from that, it performed brilliantly. There was no miss shifts. The dual clutch worked really well. Although when I first started testing it, I couldn't use the dual clutch as a dual clutch. But there has been a software update, a firmware update. Dual clutch works fine. You can now adjust the dual clutch in the software, and you can also adjust it on the fly in the wheel with using one of the rotary encoders on the bottom. Dead easy to do. So the dual clutch works perfectly. Every button worked perfectly. Whichever wheel I used, whether it be the round one, the Formula One, or my favourite, which is this one. I really like the look of that one. They all performed brilliantly. Now, we'll talk about price. I've got the price in here. Now, I really struggled to find a distributor online. I will link down below to the worldwide distributors, but I couldn't find one in the UK. So you're going to have a look at the link down below in the description to find whichever one is closest to you. Now, I've got the price in pounds, although I couldn't find a UK distributor. So the price for the H.AO hub, this is £489. That includes VAT. The price for this hub and one of the wheels is £549. And if you wanted to buy the wheel separately, that's £79. Now, all those prices include VAT. So £549 for this and one wheel rim of your choice. Now, if I put that one on there, I don't think that's a bad price. I think that's a really good looking wheel with lots and lots of functions. Now, I mentioned the turn racing button plate earlier on. So this one, what was the price of this one? So £489 for the Conspit one. This is £250. So 240 quid more for this one. So essentially double the price. Do you get double the function? I would say you probably do, to be honest. I think looking at these two and having both of these in my hand, this one is twice as good as that one, in my opinion. But it all depends how deep your pockets are. Now, there are other manufacturers that are making button boxes. So you've got the likes of iRacing Racing. Theirs is more expensive than this one. You've got Acertech, which is less than this one, but you've got to use the Acertech QR. So the Acertech button plate is only really useful if you're in the Acertech ecosystem. With this one, you can use it on any wheelbase with any quick release you want. Is it worth the money? It depends, doesn't it? It depends. Now, if you're somebody who's going to buy this steering wheel, you're going to buy this steering wheel. If you're going to own a couple of Conspit steering wheels, or you've got a couple of steering wheels that you own yourself, then I think it's definitely going to be worth it. If not, if you're just going to be using one steering wheel, then I would probably just buy a steering wheel rim. I wouldn't bother with this. But if you do see yourself using more than one steering wheel rim, and it literally does take 5 minutes to change rims from one to another. So if you were driving a car with a round rim and then you want us to do a race in a Formula car, 5 minutes, the job's done. Dead simple. You don't have to change anything apart from the wheel rim. It's literally a case of taking off these two encoders with the grub screw, undoing these small nuts on the top, 3 bolts, and you're done. So I think it's worth the money. I just don't think I would buy it. I think I would much rather own a selection of wheel rims. I would rather have a round rim than I could just put them on. Even though it's easy, I would much rather have different wheels for different cars. But saying that, I think it's worth the money. It's not cheap, but when you've got it in your hand, it is a proper piece of carbon fibre. It is really well made. I've just got some issues with it where I don't know if I could get past those to buy it. So let's summarise. Looks-wise, I think it looks really good. I think Conspit have done a really good job on the design, although I don't like the display and I don't like the RPM lights. If we could delete those, I would be happy. Apart from that, looks-wise, I think it looks brilliant. On to build quality. Build quality overall excellent, apart from that one pre-tapped bolt hole where I couldn't get an Allen bolt in. But I've been assured by Conspit that this affects this one only. They've not had any other reports, and I've got no reason to disbelieve them at all. But I just thought it was important to mention, as that was what I discovered in my period of testing. Performance, I thought it performed brilliantly. Every button feels really nice. All the rotary encoders feel really nice. The dash performed all right. It did what it's supposed to do. I just don't like the look of it. So the dash performed really well. The RPM lights, there's a lot of bleed through of the lights. They're not that clear, and you've got to adjust the RPM slider in the software to get these to match up with whatever car you're driving in the simulator. So apart from that bit, everything else was perfect. Value for money, as always, that's subjective. It depends how deep your pockets are. But comparing it to the turn button plate that I've got there, well, this is twice as good as that one, at least. Looking at the iRacing Racing one online, that doesn't appear to have the functions that this has, and this is cheaper. I think I prefer the Acertec one just because of the RPM lights are better, and it doesn't have a weird little display. And that's cheaper, but then you've got to go down the path of the Acertec wheelbase. Not everybody has an Acertec wheelbase. If you're somebody that's going to chop and change wheel rims, it's definitely worth it. If you're not, if you just want to stick to one wheel rim, then I would just buy a steering wheel. You can get a Simagic Neo for under 300 quid. You can get a Cube Controls GT style rim for probably a similar amount of money. So those are my thoughts on the Conspit H.AO. But I want to say thank you to Conspit for sending me this out to test and have a look at. I will leave links down below in the description to Conspit's website, and there will be another link under there to the distributors, worldwide distributors. You're going to have to click that if you want to go and have a look and see how much it is in your own currency. But those prices that I've quoted, they were provided to me from Conspit. Then obviously you might have some import duty, import tax on top of that, depending on where you are in the world. But as always, thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you later. Cheers.